All right, so start with the kind of most basic stuff, and that is your simplifying. Do you guys remember how to work through these? Simplify. Distribute first. Remember that minus goes with that 5, so we treat it like a negative 5. When you were back in middle school, a lot of times they did plus negative, changed those minuses to plus negative, but I just leave it as a minus and treat it as a negative 5. So this is negative 8 minus 5r plus 45, and then you group together the like terms. Like terms are or have identical variable parts or no variable part at all. So negative 8 and 45 can go together, but the negative 5r has to stand alone. So this would be 37 minus 5r, or I've also seen people write negative 5r plus 37. Both of those answers are acceptable, but that is simplifying. Notice that there's no equal sign, therefore you don't solve. Solving only happens when we get into problems like 3 and 4, where it has an equal sign. Read the directions. That'll be a real good indicator for your final. If it just says simplify, you're going to leave an answer that's in this form. If it says solve, you're going to get an answer for the variable. So let's solve. How do you solve this next problem? What do I do? Do we remember? Anyone solving an equation? Goal is to get the n alone, not minus 10. The 10 is being divided, and I want to get rid of this minus 2 first. Always work with the single digits or the numbers that are standing alone first. So I want to get rid of this 2 by adding 2. Does that ring a bell a little bit? And then get rid of the 10. This is divide by 10. So what's the opposite of divide? Multiply. Yep. So n equals negative 10. I get an answer. Now, if you look at a problem like 4, because the negative 9 and x are crammed next to each other, that means multiply. Opposite of multiply is divide. So in this one, you're going to add 3, then divide by negative 9. And when we do that on both sides. Okay, so that's simplifying and solving. And then another thing that we got into is graphing lines. Anybody remember these?
Yeah, you start at 2.
Start at 2.
Go down 7.
Yep.
And then
Nice.
go with it.
Start at 2 on the y. That end number tells you right here, tells you where you go on the y-axis. And then this slope here, that's the slope. I'm going to put it over here. That's negative 7 over 4 or 7 over negative 4. So that means I go down 7, right 4, or up 7, left 4. Down 7, right 4 seems like the only one that's going to fit in here. So down 7, right 4, make a point, connect my lines. Remember, if it's positive, when I look at my slope on this one over here, that would be up 3, right 2, or down 3, left 2. Left 2. Double negative or double positive. All right, so this is the stuff that kind of dates back to quite a bit, and I want to bring it up because it's real, like one of the big, these initial topics are the big topics in algebra. But now we're going to get into the newer stuff that we did this year. So do you guys remember snowflake?
Yeah.
Okay. How does the snowflake work? Yep, make that x. Correct. Remember, it's the number in front times the number in back. If I don't see a number in front, it's a 1. So 1 times negative 40 gives me my top number. And then the bottom number is 3. What goes in the upper wings? 1n and 1n. Or just n. But in number 9, it would be 2x and 2x. Now, what do I put in the lower wings? Two numbers that? Yep, multiply to be negative 40, add to be 3. So I can go through the list. I always start with 1 and 40, the most obvious, and then figure out if I can do anything with 1 and 40 to get 3. I'm always thinking about ways to multiply. Then I'll do 2 and 20. Still can't get 3. That's these are ways to multiply, but what I do with them is add or subtract to get 3. Then I'll try 3, but that doesn't work. So I'll try 4 and 10. I'm getting closer. If I subtract 4 and 10, I get 6. That's closer to 3. Then I'll try 5 and 8, and I think I found it. So just go through that list. Try and find the ones that are going to get 3. So keep in mind that I need it to be positive 3, so it's negative 5 and positive 8. So I do n minus 5 and n plus 8. That would be my final answer on that one. But when I have a number in front, as in problem number 9, that changes things a little bit, because this is going to be 2x and 2x. And if I have a number other than 1 here, that means that one or both of these are going to be simplified. And so it's two numbers that multiply to be negative 18, add to be positive 7. And I'll go through that same process again. 1 and 18, 2 and 9. I think I found it. Again, I need it to be negative 18, so one of these needs to be negative, and positive 7, so the bigger one needs to be positive. So this is negative 2, positive 9. Again, because there is a number in front, don't forget that at least one of these will be simplified. So this one's x minus 1. So when I write my answer, x minus 1, 2x plus 9. Up next, type of problem that most of you hated. Yeah, really. I'm going to do that to you, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Quadratic formula.
Wait, no, that's not the worst. That is not the worst.
That's not the worst? You didn't, okay.
The next one.
Okay, okay. Because then we get into SOHCAHTOA, and that stuff you had to kind of learn on your own, so that might be, we'll see how that goes. See if we remember it. Yeah, I know, that's always the issue. I don't even, no? Good. You're going to need a calculator to do your SOHCAHTOA, though, so at some point you're going to either have to get yours out, or I think some of your phones even have it if you can tip your phone.
Okay.
Good? Okay. So up next was quadratic formula. You may want to write this formula down on this sheet. I will write it on the board for you when you take your final tomorrow. So this is the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. So what I have to do is keep in mind that the problems go ax squared plus bx plus c has to equal 0 in order to use this quadratic formula. It actually doesn't have to be x, as you see in problem number 12, it's n, but. So what's a in 11? 10. What's B in 11? Great, -2. What's C in 11? -10. So this is what we're going to be plugging in or using in our calculator. I have to do the opposite of B, so this is -2, I make it +2, plus or minus the square root of, on most of our calculators, a parenthesis comes right away when you hit the square root. But we have to do another parenthesis to put -2 in then and square it. And then -4 times 10 times -10 all over 2 times 10. So what I always do when I do these problems, always, is I take this, what's in there, and I figure that out first. Because our calculators don't have a plus or minus on them. So I take out my calculator, and I just approximate that value. So second for me, square root, it's above the squared key. And then I do another parenthesis, -2 end parenthesis squared, -4 times 10 times -10. I'll finish it off with one more parenthesis, hit enter, and I get 20.09. So I'm going to write that down as this is roughly 20.1. Then I have two problems that I have to solve. I have to do the plus, and I have to do the minus. So it's 2 plus 20.1, hit equals, divide by 20, and 2 minus 20.1, hit equals, divide by 20. Two plus 20.1, hit equals, divide by 20. I got 1.105. And then 2 minus 20.1, hit equals, divide by 2, nope, divide by 20. And I got negative 0.4525. Now your test tomorrow, your final tomorrow, will be multiple choice. So when you do it, depending on how they round, just kind of look and see what you get, you know, how close you are to it or whatever. But that is quadratic formula. Again, I'll write the formula on the board for you when we do it, but these are putsy. Now, I put on double the amount of problems on here that are going to be on your test tomorrow. Your test final will be shorter, so don't worry. I just wanted to make sure we had one of each that we could do together, and then if you wanted to practice one, you could do that as well. So up next after this is SOHCAHTOA. Keeping in mind that when you have a right triangle, whatever angle you're looking at, I'm just going to put X in there. Whatever angle you're looking at, from that angle across is the opposite side. The side across from the right angle is the hypotenuse. And then the one that's between the right angle and the angle that are given, that's called the adjacent. It's always the last one that's left. And that's what these things stand for. Sine, the S1, is the opposite over the hypotenuse. The cosine is the adjacent over the hypotenuse. And the tangent is the opposite over the adjacent. So if I want the sine of Z, that means I'm interested in Z. Opposite Z is 12. So I'll call that O. opposite the right angle is 37, so I'll call that H. The remaining side is A. So when I write this again, I should write this another way. This is the sine is the opposite over the hypotenuse. So I take O over H, and that's my answer. So the setup is more than the work. The setup is way more than the work. I'll leave 14 for you guys to do. Just remember that you're looking for X, so X is the angle of interest. So you do your opposite, your hypotenuse, and your adjacent. And then I'm going to do cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. I'll let you guys figure that one out. Tangent of C across from C is the opposite. Across from the right angle is the hypotenuse. The remaining one is the adjacent. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. Again, once you get your setup down, it's just picking the right letters. This one is 12 over 16. If I can reduce it, I'll reduce it. I can divide those both by 2, 4. So there's my final answer. Up next, these guys I think are the easiest as long as you remember how to use your calculator. So you might have to ask tomorrow when you're working. So once we're done and people are ready, I'll slide that up and get those. And then after that, I think a lot of the problems are the more recent ones that we did, and I'm going to just let you kind of go on your own, and I'll give you the formulas that you need to know. Good? Okay, so here we go. If I want to find the angle, the first thing that you have to make sure is that your calculator is in degrees. Here's mine. It says either shows you a D or it has a DEG. If you're not sure, ask me. If you don't know how to do it or if you can't tell if it has it, ask me. And I can take a look at your thing. But if I want to find the angle, what I need to do is do the inverse. So I do second, in this case, cosine, and then I plug in this 0.9962. Hit enter, and it'll give me my angle. So I say this is about 5 degrees. So if I'm doing number 18, it's the sine inverse, and I should write that down. This is the cosine inverse of 0.9962. This one is the sine inverse of 0.1045. So I take my calculator and I do second sine 0.1045, hit enter, and get my, this one's about 6 degrees. So X is roughly 6 degrees. So what do you do for your next one? That would be the one on your own. Tangent inverse of 7.1154. Biggest mistake people make is not having it in degrees. Again, I'll let you get caught up on that, and then we'll do the last type that we're going to go over together, and then I'll let you check the other stuff kind of on your own. That's the more recent stuff. This stuff seems like so long ago that we did it. What'd you get for that, Annabelle? For, yeah. What did you get? 1? So I got 82. Yours might be in, did you get 82 as well? Yeah. Yours might be in radians. And so you just have to hit the DRG until the degree shows up. It's probably going to be easier to use one of these calculators. And you have to do tangent inverse on that. All right, 19. I find the angle. I look at what I'm going to label the sides again. Across from the angle is the opposite. Across from the right angle is the hypotenuse. The other one that's left is the adjacent. The ones that are labeled here are opposite and hypotenuse, so I have to select the one that uses opposite and hypotenuse. So this is the sine of 59 equals 18 over x. If the letter is in the bottom, divide. If the letter is on top, multiply. Because the letter's in the bottom on this one, I'm going to take 18 divided by the sine of 59. Always put the number part in first. So this is 18 divided by the sine of 59. And I get about 21. They said nearest tenth, but it's 20.99, so I'm going to go x is about 21. Let's do one where the letter is on top. I'll let you guys get caught up. We'll do one with the letter on top, and then the rest of them, like I said, I'm just going to give you formulas, and you guys can finish up. You'll be able to use your notes. I just wanted to make sure that you had all of this old stuff that we haven't gone through in a while, kind of something to refer to. This is something that you probably want to jot down. Letter in the bottom, divide. Letter on top, multiply. Make sure that you have that. Again, we're going to do one with the letter on top. And so, number 21. I find my angle. I go opposite the angle to get the opposite. Opposite the right angle to get the hypotenuse. The remaining one is adjacent. Which one uses A and H? That's the cosine. So the cosine of 26 equals x over 16. If the letter is on the bottom, you divide. If the letter is on top, multiply. So I do 16 times the cosine of 26. And I get my final answer, looks like about 14.4. And then, remember, proportions, just cross multiply and divide. The two numbers that are diagonal get multiplied. 9 times 10 divided by 7. Those go pretty quickly. Just plug it in your calculator. Sometimes you may have to set up an equation and solve. Percent problems, remember, percent over 100 equals is over of. And then it's just solving like a proportion. And then our percent change, increase and decrease in it is percent over 100 equals 2 minus from over from. And then the very last is the most recent. That's what we just had our test on last week. And that is simplifying and dividing the rational expressions. So those will be all that are on your final. Again,